Reed, this place does not have a 13th floor.
That's pretty common in most hotels, yeah. You haven't noticed that before?
It was at Politicon. I noticed that. Though I wonder how hard is it to just make a fake 13th button on an elevator?
And just it doesn't go to any floor?
It doesn't do anything. It turns red when you click it. That's it.
Yeah, I guess that works.
Yeah, and that way, it's like, hey, we're not on the 13th floor, but yeah, you can even make that like the janitor's, floor or whatever you want on it. But saying that there's no 13th floor just really means the 14th floor is the 13th floor. That's why.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Anyway, let's get to it. We're going to be talking about the first God Talk today. Something interesting in this conversation is I should have ended it earlier, but at that point, I wanted to just see how far I could go, and I should have been more careful with that. But typically, a defense mechanism I see is people will try to use purposely circular reasoning on points that they already know the answer to, just to make the claim, we're talking in circles, therefore I can walk away and I can win. And in other cases, I would see that and be like, okay, we don't have to keep talking. That's totally fine. Because I want to make it a pleasant conversation for both of us. Anyway, let's go to it.
Yeah.
Be the eyes of the beholder.
Do you got 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Mind if we top into
this
something?
This never takes 5 minutes.
Do you have a God belief?
Yes.
Which God do you believe in?
Well.
Or like, what's your God belief? Talk to me.
I'm Christian, so.
What kind of Christian? Catholic, Evangelical, Baptist, Mormon, Lutheran?
Apostolic.
You're what?
I'm apostolic. But
it's always something that's different too. That's
apostolic.
a weird thing.
How do you spell that?
Apostolic, yeah, that's pretty rare.
When I heard that, I thought apostate Christianity. So but it was more like towards the Apostle Paul.
Yeah, if it seems like if you're apostate, that's not a Christian.
Yeah. So it was weird.
STOLI.
C?
Well, A. Not an E. A.
Oh, an A.
Apostolic.
So you're like an apostate?
Yeah, like basic teaching of the Apostle Paul.
I got you. Okay.
What is like the... Could you mind telling me about like how this differs from like say a Baptist? Or,
yeah, I'm generally interested at this point.
All right, it's basically similar, but the apostolics, they're more focused on not say more focused, but they kind of highlight the teachings of the gospel when it comes to Apostle Paul and stuff like that.
So they're more Paul focused?
Yeah.
So like a Baptist would be like, help me out.
It's similar, but what sets them different is each religion, they have the way that they operate their church. I really don't look at religion or I'm apostolic. I really don't proclaim it. I'm just a follower.
So he's already backing away from apostolic already. It's good just to see that. It builds momentum in other conversations too. Like even with the LDS member, he's like, I'm really more non-denominational. Like if that was a God topic, that's enough to keep driving towards like, I don't identify with this, it was just what I was brought up with, and whether or not it's actually true could be a completely different topic.
I never really try to clarify which denomination, because that just seems to be too much in the weeds. We're talking about the God and what a God means, really. So I'll just skip to, does a God exist? What do you mean by God?
In Kentucky and Tennessee, it's different for everybody, and it's really worthwhile. From my experience, it's worthwhile because I will spend 20 minutes assuming what they mean by God, only for them to be like, but I really mean this God. And you're like, you're trying to waste a lot of my time.
Yeah, I wouldn't get to what they mean by God by inferring that from the denomination, but just I'll try to get what they mean by God. I'll ask them about it and get the features of the God.
Right.
And then we can talk about that.
Okay, cool.
Christ,
Sure.
God,
Sure.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just a vehicle to get me there.
Yeah. Well, that's what.
But it's just a vehicle.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in the destination.
Yeah. My relationship with God. That's what.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just the church you go to.
Yeah, that's what a church I go to.
But it's not like you're you're not like.
Yeah, like I won't go to a Baptist church
you go
or
to
non-denominational.
If you went to Memphis, Tennessee, you was like, I'm fine going to the Baptist churches now.
If they teaching the Word of God, it down.
I get you.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, you believe Christian God's true or Christian God exists, regardless of the denominations. Like, I believe in a Christian
he's the
God.
creator, yeah.
Do you mind helping me
So now
out?
we got it down to a general.
On this guy, I got like a little diagram sort of thing. Let's say this is 100% God exists. This is 100% God does not exist. Where would you be on that? And you can use your 100%. I have zero doubt.
Like that.
So you're off the scale.
Yeah.
Off the scale, like at 100.
Yeah.
That's over
Yeah.
100%.
So at, let's see, KFC or Kentucky Free Thought Convention, on 3 occasions, I would talk about, do you believe in a God? Yes, I believe in a God. And they'll vaguely say that they're Christian. Sometimes they won't even offer that. And we'll talk about what they believe to be true. And then I'll bring up like a Hindu as a counterexample, and you say, well, that's my God too. And I'm like, ooh, if that's your God too, what version? You said you were a Christian. It's like, I'm a Christian, but that's also my God. In fact, Shiva is also a version of my God, and this is my God. And it's like, I wish I had spent more time specifying which version of Christianity that you adhere to ahead of time, so that you wouldn't try to wiggle out of the position later on. That's what I'm referring to.
That seems to be a problem with like universalists. Yeah.
Cool. So like you're like really, really, really confident then, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about the Christian God. You might help me out. What method are you doing to become so confident that this God exists?
So you're asking for reasons right off the bat with 100%. Ideally, just try to go straight to disconfirmation criteria, because then you're just going to rehearse reasons and figure out. He's going to rehearse ways to bolster his confidence now,
Right.
instead of figuring out what could change his mind. So that ideally, just go to that first.
If they respond 10, their belief is not disconfirmable, but make sure by asking, I just want to make sure I'm clear. There's no evidence, even hypothetically, that you could encounter that would make you change your mind. Is that right? If they say yes, then you have the following options. Shift to a learning frame by asking a few more disconfirmation questions to learn about their belief, ask why they believe that and attempt to figure out their epistemology, switch the conversation to morality and identity, conduct an intervention on whether or not good people should be willing to revise their beliefs, or walk away.
Might also be good to like further define by what he means by 100% too, and just be like, is there any way that you'd be able to change your mind? Is there anything or any questions that you're asking, any kind of doubt? And then disconfirmation. Might be even, I think he was off the scale, to be honest with you. So I'd be like, is there any room for you to learn more about God? And then if that can wiggle him off of his initial point. I liked what Anthony did when we were watching that video in IHOP, where he was like, and a lot of people say 100% just as a value statement.
I'm really glad I asked that, because sometimes I think people think they have an obligation to say they're more sure of something than they actually are. And this type of interaction goes really well when we're completely upfront with our views. Because the idea here is to see, am I justified in thinking that that's true? And if we're not being honest with our views, I suppose, it could interfere with our ability to critically examine them.
What we mean by 100% on this scale is just like how well you can demonstrate it to be true with like, a measure of the method that you're using to reach that confidence. We can talk about that and figure out if the method you're using is reliable or not. And then, compare that with how confident you are afterwards. But you don't have to be 100% at this point.
It's his personal confidence. Is he personally confident in anything else more than the existence of this God? And if that's whatever that is, that could be whatever you're most confident about. That should be not maybe like, well, even if it's 100, some people want to not be 100 on pretty much anything. So we want to see if he has the virtue of like wanting to be open to revising his belief, be open to changes.
Yeah, like confirm, like we get that you believe in this God a lot, but also like as far as confidence, like is there anything that you're more confident in? Like compared to me sitting in front of you, like are you more confident in this God than this? That's what we're referring to. But I'm not questioning the virtue of you believing in this God or whether or not you actually believe. It's just an issue of like,
how can we gauge the confidence on that? That's more of like what we're trying to focus on. I will try to wordsmith that better. But yeah, let's keep going. So, Vice President's talking right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was involved in a car accident.
I understand.
No.
The phrase in the question is really important.
Uh-huh.
It's the method that you're using to get to it. I know there's a very important personal experience that you might have, but are you saying personal experience that you had is the reason why you're 100% confident? In
No,
this
I was confident before. Like, I grew up, going to church.
Upbringing?
Upbringing.
Yeah, I don't think he understood what method means. I think it just meant like reason to him, or just something that gives him confidence.
But during that upbringing, going to church, you have that awakening when the Holy Spirit, talks to you, give you a confirmation like this is true.
You had a strong personal feeling that you had a contact with God, like Holy Spirit and stuff. Okay? What else?
All right, so my accident, I was involved in an accident.
Personal experience?
Right.
Cool. Which would you say is like the most important thing? Upbringing, the personal feeling that you had at church, or that personal experience you had with the accident that you're
What's the second one?
Personal feeling that you had when you were touched with the Holy Spirit? I'll phrase it like this.
Well, I think it's more than just a feeling. It's like feeling and being divine and feelings are two separate things.
Okay.
In my eyes.
All right.
God is not a feeling.
I understand that.
Yeah.
He connected with you in an experience that you had, right?
Yeah. He revealed. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it should just be personal experience.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
That question talks in the terms of theism. I would try to avoid that. It's like it's taking the term seriously on theism's terms.
Sure.
So try to stick to just epistemology.
The central contention of this book is that theism, being a kind of mythology, isn't technical or interesting. It's the wrong model for making sense of the myriad ideas caught up in the word God, which is the only reason it's discussed at all. This book is about creating plausible alternatives to theism as an account for the meaning caught up in the word God. That God is an idea that human beings use to manage their psychosocial needs is one such option.
If you didn't have those personal experiences, would you still be 100%?
Will I be 100%?
Yeah. If you didn't have those personal experiences.
Probably not.
You would actually go down?
Well, if I didn't believe in God, then, I wouldn't have an up or down.
Our theory, in brief, was that the human mind automatically perceives a kind of vertical dimension of social space, running from God, or moral perfection, at the top, down through angels, humans, other animals, monsters, demons, and then the devil, or perfect evil, at the bottom. The list of supernatural beings varies from culture to culture, and you don't find this vertical dimension elaborated in every culture, but you do find the idea that high equals good, equals pure, equals God, whereas low equals bad, equals dirty, equals animal, quite widely.
So from here, I address the personal experiences, but then he no longer says it would make him go down anymore. And at that point, that's the circle. It's like, we agreed that these would make you go down. Yes, they would. Here's the situation where you said it would make you go down, but that would make me go down. And then we just go in a circle from here for like maybe the next 30 minutes.
Those personal experiences.
Probably not.
You would actually go down?
Well, if I didn't believe in God, then, I wouldn't have an up or down.
Would you say your upbringing...
What does he mean by that?
No.
I wouldn't have a number down.
He sounds like if he... you want to hear it again?
Sure.
Probably not.
You would actually go down?
Well, if I didn't believe in God, then, I wouldn't have an up or down.
Would you say
that's the linchpin for him to believe in God?
I think it's like nothing would matter type of thing.
Nothing would matter?
Yeah. I think that's what he's trying to get at with that.
Life would have no meaning?
Yeah. That's what I'm hearing him say.
Okay. So then, let me think. What was I thinking about at the time? I interpreted that as yes back then. Now I can see doesn't sound like an emphatic yes. Let me hear it one last time.
Oh, you would
Probably not.
actually go down?
Well, if I didn't believe in God, then I wouldn't have an up or down.
Everything in his body language and face says that to me.
If I didn't believe in God, life would have no meaning.
Yeah.
Okay. Then that's not the question I was asking. Yeah.
Would you say your upbringing had any value at this at all? Like if you were raised in a different family or a different household and were raised to believe in Shiva, would you go down on your 100%, or would you just be as confident in the same God if you were raised in India?
They don't want to answer that directly
upbringing
either.
brought a personal part, but it's a lot of people who's brought up as Christians that fall away, or other people brought up in other religion, they come to Christianity.
True. And there are some people who are Christian who become Hindus.
Or people who are atheists, they find Christ.
Yeah. So it seems like your upbringing doesn't necessarily...
Yeah, it doesn't.
So maybe upbringing is not 100% reliable, right? Okay. But you have these experiences.
It helps. It aids.
Sure.
But it's a difference between going to church, doing the traditional stuff, and having that divine awakening of who God is. Some people, play the facade, they're Christian, or go to church, but
So typically after these small epiphanies, there'll come a brief filibuster moment where they have to go back to virtue again. And I'm letting that go through. The transitions between you just going off on a quick antidote back to the SE component is hard to do when you're really tired. And I would say that if you don't have the energy and you know you don't have the energy for that, even at this point would be a good way to end the conversation, right? There's no point for you to put more stress on yourself after that.
Yes, two different spiritual and what we call.
That transition is really, really smooth. It needs to be
If someone
smooth.
was brought up, I agree it helps a lot, but if someone was brought up as like a Hindu and had a personal experience where they got in touch with Shiva, would that make you 100% confident that Shiva's real?
I don't know.
I think it's good to make sure the frame of the conversation is made very clear, that we're trying to figure out reliable ways of coming to
Yeah, outline those rules ahead of time. I think in this one, again, there was maybe a half hour of talking before. I'm sorry. It was maybe a half hour talking before we got to just the God topic at the end of it. I don't know if you ever have a moment where you're just I think this is the last talk of the day. How about we just throw this out?
just throwing stuff out.
Let's just see if this works. Spaghetti on the wall, right?
Testing stuff.
Just set it out. I want to go to sleep.
Okay.
Oh, funny backstory. So we set up, and I was not expecting to do SC that day. And then so I flew in, I got up at 5, I drive to Nashville, traffic was sucked. Standing in the rain, waiting for a bus to take me to the shuttle airport. Get in the airport, fly over to Maryland, get my baggage, carry all of my suitcases straight to the convention center, start setting up the table, setting up, meet Reed, connect, set up, everything set up, and Reed's all right, so you ready to go? I'm oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. But I think that was at 3, right? So I got there maybe about 12 because we had a tailwind. And so it's 3 and I'm thinking, okay, so maybe we'll do a couple of quick talks and we'll be done. And it's no, we'll go for till 4. And it's okay, 4. It's when does this place close? 5 o'clock. It's okay, we'll stay till 5. Wait, the doors are still open. They're actually open till 6. It's okay, we'll stay till 6. 7 o'clock. Okay, we'll stay till 7.
Just kept getting pushed back.
And we just kept getting more. And then finally it was 8:30 where it's Reed, I think we're done. And then we finally went out to Outback. And so this guy was second to last for the day because I needed to catch back up. I think Nathan was the absolute last, but it was funny. So at this point I'm just I'm sorry I don't have the patience to listen to this and show real compassion. But can we just get back to the God belief, because I'm just going to hammer this home and tell you.
Shiva. Would that make you 100% confident that Shiva's real?
I don't know.
I could probably let that pregnant pause last a lot longer too. I shouldn't have to feel the need to talk, but
Put it on the Hindu you're trying to think, like, is using the same method for the Hindu a good way to come to the belief in Vishnu? Get an answer for that, and then try to reflect it back on his beliefs.
Would it be worthwhile also to try OTF style on this, where it's like there's a Hindu who's doing this, and now I'm looking at both you and the Hindu who are both saying you use a personal experience to reach this God, and I'm confused because it seems like you're both using the same method, but reaching different conclusions. What can you tell me that the Hindu isn't telling me? Or like, what is there anything unique about this? Or is there a better method?
It's called putting the burden of understanding on yourself.
Yeah.
So you're trying to help an outsider understand, and if they're at a roadblock or a fork in the road where they can't figure out which way to go, it's like an empathy. You're trying to help them empathize with their struggle of not being able to understand or go anywhere.
Yeah.
So that, and then that could, then later on, they could probably reflect that back on themselves.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
But
If someone said, "Hey, I'm a Hindu," I got it.
But the thing about it, I want my beliefs. I want to tread on their beliefs.
You hear that a lot.
For me, I know God is real, and if He's only one God, and if anybody else proclaim the same thing, that's between them and my God.
Sure, they definitely have the right to believe whatever they
Right.
want. But I wonder about the
can't
method.
tell them like you're going to hell.
Of course
because
not.
No.
But what's that?
You've seen this before, right?
Yeah.
Or they interpret the questioning of a different religion as an attack on the religion, where it's more of just, we agree that everyone has a right to believe whatever they want, but it's a question of, do we care if our beliefs are true? And if so, let's continue back on the SE, train of thought. Yeah. Again, it's smoother to do this full stomach,
I
full
would
sleep.
say if someone else can use that exact same method, where they have a personal experience in their church based on a different upbringing, that's the same sort of method that you're presenting me, where you had a personal feeling or an accident, and you had to bring.
No, the accident, it didn't reconfirm it, but it made it stronger.
Sure. Let's say a Hindu had an accident and it made him more sure that Shiva was real. Would that make you more confident that Shiva is real? Or
No.
does that justify him to be 100% confident that Shiva is real?
Is that a good way for the Hindu to be more confident?
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
No, see, when it comes to the walk with God, it's between you and God. It's not about between, what I think someone else and their God, what they proclaim.
Right. Someone else could use the same method that you're using to get to 100% and reach a completely different God belief. But it doesn't matter because you have your own God belief. And I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
But you're both using the same method. I'm looking for a method that's 100% reliable to reach your God belief. But it seems...
And you want to make sure you're trying to figure out whatever's true. If Shiva's true, I want to believe that. If this is true, I want to believe that. Help me understand. And I'm just stuck or something.
Yeah, good points.
Like, a Hindu could use an accident to reaffirm their God belief, or feeling that they had in a church to come to a conclusion that their God's 100% true. But that may not be necessarily something that you would agree with. So what's something that would 100% as a method show that your God is real?
Yeah, I can focus this on my more self-born.
Breathing.
Breathing?
From my accident, yeah. I'm still here. He spared me.
Breathing? What do you mean?
I mean, an accident relates to being more in control of life, which is what the idea of a God does for most people.
The world is variable, often dangerous, and sometimes calamitous, and human beings have a psychological need for control in uncertain circumstances. The theme is human powerlessness, and it lies at the center of most of our feelings of vulnerability and fear. This need is huge, perhaps utterly central to the human struggle and the very foundation of many of our other needs, and we imagine God to pretend we have it satisfied.
So maybe at some point brainstorming ways to feel more in control in life.
Yeah.
That would help lower defenses.
If I am ever doing SC, and this only happened like the first couple of times I was ever doing it, and there's someone braces to telling you a story, I know I asked the wrong question, because they're going to want to tell a story, and at the end of the day, it's not the story is the reason why they believe in God. but you have to listen to it, and it'll probably be some really long story. So you're just like, I asked the wrong thing.
You could translate the story and say, what I'm hearing you say is, this God helps you feel more in control in life, or maybe not that exactly, but just it helps you feel like you're more safe, or just you have the way to feel less out of control, or it's a way to be protected in life.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing you say. Is that right? And then maybe they'll say yes, and just try to repeat back and let them know that you're hearing them
Right.
talking about what it does for them. So,
Just like the fact that you exist.
Is that a look at the trees?
For my accident, basically, when I got
Is how do you know your God's real? Because I'm breathing. Is that a look at the trees argument?
I think it's just relating back to a story of like, it's an argument from ignorance. I got into an accident. I should have died. I don't know how I could have survived without this God existing.
Okay.
I think that's what it's about.
Breathing. What do you mean? Just like the fact that you exist?
Well, for my accident, basically, when before I got hit, well, if you could, I don't know how you would phrase it, but when I was jogging with me and my coworkers.
You look good, man.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks.
No. So, I was jogging with me and my coworkers. During that time when I was jogging, God spoke to me and let's stay far as back as possible. So I stopped running, I slowed down. Coworker, he's like, well, are you okay? I'm like, I'm all right. He's like, just jog with it. Like, just keep up the pace. We're going to be all right. We're just going to make it around the perimeter one time. All right, so I'm jogging. So, I got my earbuds in, jogging. And God said, move to the right now. I moved to the right, and I get hit by a car from behind. Didn't even know the car was there.
So God made him get hit by a car?
No, he was listening to Sambo number 5, and it was saying, move to the right. And he moved to the right. And he's like, oh, that's God. I'm just playing. I'm sorry.
Did he say he did get hit by
He
a car?
did get hit by the car.
And God told him to move into
We
the
talk
car?
about this in the video.
Okay.
I tell you, the stories don't matter.
I'm confused.
I went through the windshield. All this is open. Had 2 arterial bleedings.
Wow.
Medically impossible.
So you
for
got
me
hit?
Yeah.
You still got hit?
I got hit by a Yukon going 70 miles per hour.
Why didn't you move?
I'm running. Yeah.
Like I said, I just...
I'm sorry.
It does... All right. I don't know. I'm just having more fun than anything else at the end.
All right. I got hit from behind. I didn't know he was coming.
I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I didn't know that happened. But God revealed to me to move to the right. I didn't know. That's not like...
Can I throw something out? If
Sure.
you didn't get hit at all,
I think he's saying he moved, so he only got hurt. Just if he didn't move, he would have died. I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. But
Okay.
he still got hit.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where it was almost nearly medically impossible to, like, recover his
But
arms.
that's enough to just... That's anyway.
It's a weird thing. So, interesting point here. When I know... Here's an idea. Like, at this point, I know this is not the best talk, but I've done a couple of warm-up talks. This is like my warm-up God talk. I'm considering more of, like, instead of, getting the full episode of the talk complete perfectly, it's more of like, I'm going to take the tidbits of what you're saying and pretend like this is its own little micro talk, and then not really try to get to like the epistemological end, but take routes that I normally wouldn't take and see where it ends up at, just to see like what happens. So it's pretty experimental. So what I'm doing right now is just, okay, you told me this story. Let's play around with the story and see if this works. If this doesn't work, he said he would still believe if he got hit, even after he got hit. Would he believe more if he didn't get hit at all? Would he believe if he had even more severe injuries? That's what I'm trying to like figure out.
Yeah.
Like,
If the car would have missed him completely, would he be more confident in
yes,
God?
yeah. He's already at maximum confidence, and if that's the case, maybe his 100% is not really 100%.
If he would have been paralyzed, would he be less confident in a God?
Yeah.
like, if he was stuck in a coma for the rest of his life, would he be less confident in God?
I think if he said, I think I asked him if he died, would he still? He'd be like, well, I'd be dead. I was like, yeah, we took that too far.
Like that's the counter.
But it's good to know.
Reductio.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to know where. Yeah. It's good to know where the wrinkles are, so that the next time you come at this, you would have a more optimized way of dealing with these kinds of lines of questionings. But ideally, it'd be nice not to have to get into the story in the first place, because that frames the conversation of like an argument from emotion, when it really should just be more like, hey, we're both objectively trying to figure out how you reach this conclusion, if you did it reliably or not.
Would you believe that was from God?
That if I got hit, it was from God?
Well, I'm saying if you didn't get hit at all, would you believe that voice telling you was from God?
Well, you mean like if you told me move to the right?
I should have said
hit?
more. I meant more, but I didn't say
right.
more.
The car swerves right past where you just were.
Believe in God more.
But you heard that voice and you moved to the right, and you didn't get hit. Would you believe that came from God? Okay.
Yes.
And in this story, you did get hit.
Yeah.
But you still believe in God.
Yes.
So whether you got hit or didn't get hit, you would believe in God.
Right, because when I was on the ground, I was bleeding out. I was turning pale. I couldn't move my arm and whatnot. And God was like, you better praise me for sparing your life.
Yeah.
So then I started.
If you didn't
maybe this would be a good point to ask for disconfirmation criteria. Like,
yeah.
So what could happen that would imply God probably did not exist?
Ooh, that would trigger.
That would be triggering.
But I hear what you're saying.
What you have the confidence. Like, what could you experience that would shift your confidence even slightly?
Yeah.
That's a better way to say that. Yeah.
listen to the voice, would you believe in God?
If I didn't listen to the voice, I'd be dead.
Sure. All right. But you, all right.
Because my co-worker.
That's an assumption.
But it sounds like whether you got hit by the car or didn't get hit by the car.
I wouldn't want to argue that, but yeah. There's a really great YouTube video of a guy who makes these flash animations, and they're pretty well produced. And one of the cartoons was three guys in three alternate universes. One where he gets almost hit by a car, one where he does get hit by a car, and one where he gets hit by a car but he's in a coma or something like that. And each case he's saying, thank God I didn't get hit by that car. Thank God I survived getting hit by that car. Oh, I died. Well, thank God I'm going to heaven. And like in every single case, his confidence was not being wavering whatsoever. So it's like, it's a common denominator among all those three things that it doesn't really affect his confidence either way. They did a good way of like formatting why stories like these don't really show what's really supporting the belief. And so I'm playing around with the idea, but what I really would do in a more standard setting is condense the story into a personal experience, or like a summary was like, well, I'm hearing you saying is you had this incredible experience, and you can't think of any other way beyond like the God belief for how you came out of that in the state that you're in now. Can we talk about like a good method to like reach a high confidence in God? Like, we can frame that better.
Yeah. Maybe if someone is not understanding the concept of falsifiability at all, you could switch to like the number game.
Oh, like 2, 4, 6. Yeah. Am I increasing or buying by 2?
Yeah, if they have time, that might take a while. And if by the end of that, they should figure out, okay, I needed to figure out ways to disconfirm my rule that I was thinking.
Right.
And then ask if there's anything that could disconfirm this idea, or is that just too convoluted?
No, it's not. I could have also, once given 100%, gone straight to disconfirmation without going into any of this at all. And then if he was not able to provide a means of disconfirmation, go to. So if we were talking about a guy who is, so 100% sure that he's right, but also has no idea what it would look like if he was wrong, can we say that his confidence is justified if he doesn't have a frame of reference?
Yeah.
And that, bypasses all the God claims, all the stories or something like that, and just talks about the nature of being absolute and if that's a reliable place to be.
Yeah. Like, is there anybody who is absolute in something that is not true? And how do you feel about that person being in that situation? what could they do to get out of that situation? Whatever they say, try to have them apply that principle to themselves. That seems to be a way of like trying to be consistent.
Yeah.
That may be one way as well.
Yeah, and it would signal at the 100%. Yeah. Cool. Lots of different ways of going about this.
It wouldn't shake your faith in God.
No, because God, to me, God has aligned my life so perfectly, and I see visions, I see things, almost like a deja vu dream, but I've seen it before, and when I hit that time, I know it's affirmation that I'm at the right spot where I'm supposed to be at.
But Delano, it doesn't seem like this is where you're putting your confidence in, because whether you got hit or whether you didn't get hit, you'd still believe either way. So there must be something more important keeping you in that belief. And that's what I want to talk about. Because whether it happened...
Or you could just have a faulty way of reasoning. Or just ignorant of how...
Yeah. So
have confirmation bias. Yeah.
So the ASL sign for under is this.
Okay.
And I have a really bad habit of talking with my hands when I have purposely asked for the marker board and the pen so that I would have something in my hands to like anchor them. So I want to be waving around.
Okay.
Also, this is a much smaller booth than it was at Politicon. And one of the things I was hoping I wasn't doing when I'm talking to people is like...
being all in their face.
Exactly. I didn't want to have that. So when I see this, that's some good body... So that's why it's good to record yourself, period. Like, one, good to get feedback and crypto feedback, and I really appreciate this. But also good to see yourself doing like, oh, I got to stop doing that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Or whether you got killed, or whether you got scraped, or whether you got lost an arm, or whether you didn't get hit at all, you'd still believe in a God. So there must be something more important to you that's keeping you at 100% than that personal experience. Because whether we change that personal experience one way or the other, you'd still believe either way. So what? And like I said, this is an argument or debate. I'm just trying to figure out what's at the bottom. Like that's why I'm listening out like here.
Okay.
Like what's getting you to that 100%? Because it's none of these things. Because we agree, if you got hit, you'd still believe. If you didn't get hit, you'd still believe. So there must be something keeping you at that belief. What is it? Like what?
This assumes that propositions influence our confidence for everything.
Yeah. I think I'm rushing to get to the F-bomb.
Okay. Yeah.
It's so meaningful.
Because I know it's coming. I'm just saying, like, let's just get there.
Yeah.
More than 100%, off the chart.
Yeah. I would say, not the personal feeling, but him revealing himself to me, because...
If you didn't do it in that church, would you still believe at 100%? If you didn't have that moment?
Well, if he didn't do it to me at that church, I wouldn't be a believer. I wouldn't have that divine awakening. I think the divine awakening is 100%. It's like, I think that would be...
Okay. Divine awakening. You know, when I talk to a lot of people, they say like faith or like...
Uh-oh, you brought it up yourself.
Yeah, because I want to get out of here.
You want to get out of it. Okay.
One of like the biggest things I get. Some people like, you know, come back from cancer, stuff like that. People have like really, really strong personal feelings. And then when I ask, like, if you had a slightly different personal feeling, would you still believe in God? They still say yes. And I'm wondering, like, if we completely took that out, would you still be at 100%?
You just put words in his mouth.
I want to get out.
Okay.
Like, I'm looking at you like, Reed, please let us leave already. It's like, well, we only got 4 more hours to get inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the divine awakening, because that's what separates your belief to 100% than anything else.
You need that divine awakening. So before you weren't even at 100%, then you had it, got you to 100%, absolutely sure. And it was on that personal feeling.
Or personal experience.
I wouldn't say feeling, but...
Personal experience.
Yeah.
People on the chat were like,
But
who is this guy? And I'm like, I'm over to the side.
We can talk to, you know, a really, really nice guy from India. He has a awakening, huge epiphany in his temple. And it's like Shiva came down, touched me on my forehead, gave me the third eye, and I believe that everything the Bhagavad Gita was true. And I didn't know what I didn't know.
In my mind, I'm thinking like, I already just discussed this topic. Let me try this again as like a way to phrase this in the event that I have to do this with another person. I'm still as tired as the first time I tried to do it.
Okay.
And at this point, I'm just like, please let us just get the faith. I want to try a different, I want to try a different approach.
And it was true to me, and I had it then. And now I believe in the full procession of all Hindu gods.
Mm-hmm.
And that proved it to me that 100% sure that all these Hindu gods are true. I've heard conversations like that before.
Mm-hmm.
He's heard conversations like that before. Would you find that a compelling reason to believe to 100% certainty that this guy's accurate? That his pantheon
everybody
of
has
Hindu
their own
gods?
truths.
Everyone has their own truths.
Ooh, we're in an interesting point now.
Or more. Everyone has their own truths.
I'm like, okay, let's dismiss everything. Let's try this. Now.
Yeah,
Do
this
you
is
care
also
if your
interesting.
beliefs are true objectively or just true to you?
That's a good question. Well, true to me.
At least you said it was a good question. Yeah.
Because
Still in it.
my way to salvation doesn't depend on anyone else's. What I do and my belief in God, if I say he's...
My way to salvation, so that relates obviously to death.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like being able to survive your death.
My way to salvation? I thought that was just like my relationship and walk with Christ or something.
No, that's like afterlife totally.
Really?
This belief gives him a way to not die, which is huge for apes that are scared of dying.
Okay. Could you go back and say what you were saying again? So my way, he's saying my way to salvation, you're saying he's referring to death.
That's what I hear.
Can I hear it?
Because...
Objectively or just true to you?
That's a good question. Well, true to me. Because my way to salvation doesn't depend on anyone else's. What I do and my belief.
Okay, so I can see as a bottom line, like my way for living forever in heaven, sure, but like you can live forever in hell or heaven, and he's referring to salvation.
Hell is not salvation.
Right, but it is living forever, and it's an eternal life of some sort, right? He's saying like my walk with Christ is making sure that the eternity that I'll experience will be the good kind. Like that's the way I interpret it. I think it's
Okay.
like.
I think what he's saying is, this is true for me because of the huge benefit it gives me.
Yes.
And that trumps everything.
Yeah.
Even the way of coming to this
Exactly.
belief. Even
Yeah.
if it's
yeah.
true for me because it gives me this benefit.
It's 10,000% that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We hit that later on in the conversation. Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's a
And
Pascal's
God,
wager. He gives
I
that.
say he's 100% real and he's true and he's the only God.
So you don't want
Right.
your truths to be true for everyone. You just want them to be true to you.
Yeah, like everybody else truths, it's true to them. But me being a Christian,
Sure.
a believer,
I hear
believing
you.
in God, and someone else is a Satanist, and they believe Satan is their God.
Yeah.
And that's their truth.
I try to walk away.
Yeah.
So I try to not let Satanism be the counterexample because they both use the same book, and pointing at people who are Satanists inadvertently and indirectly also supports the views of the Bible at the same time.
He might be thinking even Hindus are Satanists. Like anything that does not believe in a God is basically Satanism.
But that also equivocates all religions under the umbrella of Christianity, because Satan is Christianity.
Yeah. So if you don't believe in God, even if it's a different God, maybe it's like equivalent to Satanism.
Yeah, I could probably say, like, instead of going to the Hindu card, just like heathen or pagan, stuff like that, that'd be good.
Okay.
A little slightly different. Yeah.
Different angle.
Yeah,
Same look.
yeah.
You guys both go to the same Bible study together.
Yeah.
She looks like she's in
If it
jail.
was true to me that Aquafina and gasoline were the same thing, how far would I be able to drive back home on a gas tank full of water?
So I said, this is how tired I am. This is like one of my favorite examples, and I said the
Yeah.
thing backwards.
Oh, okay.
Because the thing should be, if I believe that water and gasoline were the same thing, how far could I drive on a gas tank full of Aquafina? Because that's...
Okay.
that's
What did you say?
If I believe Aquafina and gasoline are the same thing. Like, ending it on Aquafina kind of like punches it up as sort of like a
Okay.
joke comment.
I think I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of makes like, I was like, that's silly. Yeah, you're right. You shouldn't be able to do it. And that helps to like build motivation or momentum towards someone being like, yeah, that's not true. And it shows like things that are personally true for me aren't necessarily true for everybody. So like,
Yeah. this emphasizes how our beliefs need to pay rent, as they say.
Oh, talk to me.
Like it needs to be able to predict state of affairs in reality.
I like that. Yeah.
Like, yeah. What does God predict can happen? Obviously, he thinks he can predict if he dies, he'll go to heaven probably. That's a prediction of the belief, although that seems to be untestable in this life. So, what other ways? What else does God predict? What does God predict could never happen?
Oh, interesting.
And if we find that happening, does that imply maybe God
Back to
that
Disconfirmation.
falsifies the model of God? So it's like we need ways to be able to test reality using predictions from models.
Yeah. Like we can even take it back and say like, it doesn't need to go to the coin flip, but like, you know, if there's something that we don't know that's in reality, would a personal truth be a good way of figuring that out? Or is there a more objective way to reliably figure out what's going on? And we can say like, hey, if I didn't know how much my car weighed, could a feeling I have in a church be a good way for me to figure out that number, or is there a better way to figure that out? And then we can bring up other examples and be like, is there potentially a better way to arrive that the belief that your God is real exists, other than this list of things that you brought up that we can agree other people can do and dismiss their 100% claim?
Yep.
All right.
If it was true to me that Aquafina and gas were the same thing.
Probably not, unless you had that car that they invented that
Yeah.
runs on
Yeah.
water, but
It seems
not
like-
car.
Yeah, I did come up with that before they came up with the hydrocell car.
Oh yeah.
So
A regular gas car.
I can phrase that too. If I believe that my car right now can run also on water, and that way I can wordsmith it. Right?
There's something true.
Avoid that wiggle room.
It doesn't have as much of an impact if it's true to everybody.
But
Why would you satisfy
But the thing
yourself with
about-
just something that's true to you?
But you're going. What you're asking is basically on a certain vehicle for a certain design. So you could drink water, whatever. You could throw it on a bicycle, throw gasoline on the bicycle. You get on a pedal, you still gonna make it home at the same time.
But if I put Aquafina in my gas tank,
Yeah,
Could I
but
drive
that's what I'm
home?
saying. It's a different vehicle.
yeah. So if it
Shifting
was
of the
true to me
goalposts.
that my car that I have right now that runs on water, would I be able to just drive home on a gas tank full of
No.
water?
But let's say that people believe they're gods, right? When they die, are they certain that they're gonna go to heaven?
There you
If
go.
they're not, if they don't, you know, or if they're right and I'm wrong and I don't go to heaven.
Yeah, I recognize it.
You
So
know?
it's worth maintaining the belief for the chance that you might actually go to heaven?
No, it's not about.
I don't know how to, when you clearly see that bargaining going on, I don't know how to address that without them immediately bulking when you address that they're bargaining or making a wager. When you see someone say like, hey, they can believe what they want, but I think I have a better chance of getting to heaven if I keep believing what I want, because I'm not going to change courses now this far in my life. I'm like, oh, so it's more of like you're making a gamble. It's like, no, it's not a gamble. It's like, that's exactly what it is. I'm not going to say that, but like, I don't know without saying, hey, you're using Pascal's wager, here's 14 sites off Iron Chariots, read these papers, here's some more books, that's why you're wrong, see you later. Like, there's something to think about, but yeah.
Yeah, like death anxiety relates to terror management theory. So in some ways, you can try to ask questions that can brainstorm alternative ways to feel more comfortable with death. I'm not sure the best way to go about that, but that might help lower defenses.
When many people use the word God, some of what they mean by it is their sense of assurance that their own death and the deaths of their loved ones are either not real or not final. In other words, for many, maybe most religious believers, God means I and those I love will not die. It is likely that whatever other aspects of the term God are manifest, this particular thought lurks in the background, either just beneath the surface or close enough to be felt.
But anyway, I see what you were saying before. I saw it in this. I'd see this as Pascal's wager, and I'm working on a way to optimize my response to this. Also, if other people are watching this, feel free to comment this. I'm liking feedback.
For me, it's not about being, doing everything so I could get to heaven. Life is not about that.
It's not a gamble.
It's not a gamble. My life.
Then why do you believe?
Like I said, the divine awakening. My life is basically doing God's will, and He placed everybody on the earth, regardless if they believe in Him or not.
The way to get to heaven is to live a good life and to be a good moral person.
Of course, the main reason most people believe in religion is because they need to deny death. The psychology of religion is not ambiguous about this point. This is actually related to morality. Why? Because religion offers a route in which denial of death seems possible. How? By living correctly. If you live rightly, you get to go to heaven. So live right versus living wrong, and you don't have to die.
Because if I said that to him, if I said that to other Christians, they'd be like, no, that's not enough. You have to go through the sacraments, you have to believe in Jesus Christ, you have to give up your soul at a certain age. That answer can be different for a lot of different Christians, but I hear what you're saying. Like, in general, can you rewind that?
Someone have a...
Being, doing everything so I could get to heaven. Life is not about that.
It's not a gamble.
It's not a gamble. My life.
Then why do you believe?
Like I said, the divine awakening. My life is basically doing God's will, and He placed everybody on the earth, regardless if they believe in Him or not.
Could someone have a divine awakening in a God that's not true?
I'm not sure.
I get that
If
when
you're
he
not sure,
wants to
how are
say
you
no.
confident that a divine awakening means 100% that...
Divine awakening. Awakening to know how to be a good person.
I hear that as he was in church and you have a moment, a one-to-one moment with the Holy Spirit that a lot of people say they have. And so somewhere down the road, he's confirmed that the experience that other people say they had, he had, and therefore God's real. And he needs that so that he can go through death management.
Okay.
Your God is. Have a divine awakening in a God that's not true?
I'm not sure.
If you're not sure, how are you confident that a divine awakening means 100% that your God is true?
People.
I can always work on the way how I phrase that. And that is much more aggressive attack on that.
You're talking really fast too.
I want to get out of here. I really, really do. But like, I've lost my patience like maybe a half hour ago. But full stomach, I would stretch that out. I would probably reflect on the answer that he gave me. Thank him for that. Throw in a quick joke, and then get back to the idea of, okay, if you're not sure what it looks like if you're wrong, how can you be so confident you're right? Yeah, that's basically it. To 100%
Divine
certainty.
awakening all the time.
Yeah.
What happened there? I'm not going to say what
People have
happened.
divine awakenings in Satanism.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And again, I wish I didn't go to
So-
Satanism.
Which isn't like necessarily the best example here, but like...
I know, but like, where I work at,
That's a note to myself.
people are mentally ill. They say they're Jesus on black. They have a divine awakening, but mental illness, or some people who are not mentally ill believe in a different religion. They have a divine
Sounds like
awakening.
they're using a method that's not 100% reliable. There might be something better for them to use to get to 100% certainty. Like, I'm not even saying your God's not true.
No,
Trust me,
no.
I'm just saying, like, shouldn't you have a method that's 100% reliable to reach 100% confidence? And if you...
Or multiple methods that add up to it.
I don't like that. I don't think there's necessarily an additive clause towards methodologies. More so, like from an engineering background, the simplest approach is the hallmark of design. Yeah, and if I have 5 different things that are equally 20% reliable, and I add them up, you can't just add up the certainty. You also have to add up the uncertainty. And at that point, I'm adding 80 times 5% uncertainty, which is way, like, you can average that out and you still end up mathematically with something that's overall uncertain. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just thinking in terms of like Bayesian probability. Like we have our prior probability, and you can add multiple lines of evidence to increase the posterior probability.
Okay. But you can also, in the same case, say I take 2 coin flips and say each time I flip a coin, I have a 50% chance of getting heads. So if I flip it twice, that's a 100% chance of getting heads twice. It's like, no, In fact, every single time you flip that coin, the chances of getting a pair of heads goes down. So getting 2 heads is actually 25% because you're multiplying probabilities, not adding them. Was that too? So like 50% chance times 50% chance.
With the coin flip example, we're trying to. What's the claim with it? It's like we're claiming heads.
Yeah.
And all evidence suggests that we have a 50% chance of getting that.
So you can't
because of the empirical experiments of coin flips.
Yes. And you can't add two 50% together. You have to multiply them to get your odds. So you actually have a 0.25 or 25% chance of getting 2 heads. When you add probabilities together, like say you have a chance of being probably right on different claims. In some cases you can add them. In some cases you have to multiply them.
I'm thinking of like, you do a coin toss and then you get an X-ray machine inside in this experiment.
Okay.
And we just X-ray through your hand and
that's a really good way.
Look through it.
Yeah, that's a really good way.
That's a way to increase the probability that it's heads.
That you get a right answer.
So that's 2 methods. Like just going off a 50%, background knowledge chance, and then plus an X-ray experiment, plus other ways.
Okay. All those different methods do not change the probability of the heads being heads up.
It's about the claim that it is heads and what would increase our confidence.
Right. If it's about the claim, okay, and we might be, help me if we're talking past each other, but if I flip a coin, it's back in my hand, and I don't know if it's heads or tails.
This is analogous to God exists and does not exist.
Exactly. And I'm making the claim that it is heads.
Yeah. So God exists.
If I had an X-ray machine, it does not change the probability of that coin being heads or tails. It just better affirms if we had the right answer.
You're covering it to analogize to our inability to empirically test God.
Yes.
That's not necessarily the case. We could have multiple lines of empirical evidence for God, and multiple empirical evidence could increase our confidence about it.
I agree. If the claim is having different methods is necessarily additive, I don't agree with that because there are a lot of different ways to treat different probabilities because we can add them together, we can multiply them together, some subtract each other, some are worthwhile to throw out as outliers, and it's not necessarily because you have 3 different methods that your probability of being correct goes up in any way. It's more about the veracity of the methods that you're employing.
Like evolution exists or does not exist. And we have multiple lines of evidence to give our confidence about evolution, like DNA and archaeology, other things, genetics, that's DNA. Do those cancel each other out since they're all empirical, or do they increase the probability of evolution existing?
Yeah. So I'm not saying that there's cases where it's not additive. I'm just saying it's not necessarily all the time additive. If he's making the argument that I have 4 methods and therefore you can add them up to get a more confident conclusion, you have to demonstrate that you're able to do that. You can't just say I have multiple methods and therefore my conclusion's more additive. And
it would have to be additive if it was like above 50% chance.
I don't know about that.
I don't like.
Maybe.
Like if someone came up and always had like a 55% chance of getting heads, that was just a magical person that always had a 55% chance of getting heads. I don't know. Then that would mean, I don't know.
And not to dig into the weeds, but like Darwinism, as we understand for evolution, a lot of the tenets that were proposed turned out not to be completely as well-rounded as we wanted, which is why we have like germ theory, genetics, and stuff like that. So like we can have a method that we end up realizing was serviceable up to a point, but can be dismissed for the new, better resolved ideas of what we know currently today. Yeah. So like our modern evolution theory is a lot different. So it's not necessarily an additive experience. It could just be like, okay, we're done with this. We have better ways of testing and figuring out stuff now. So like the number doesn't necessarily imply how confident you are. It's more of like the quality of the methods that you have and then the quality of how you're combining them together, which isn't necessarily always additive.
And just the empiricism does not ever get 100%. So that's not even if we had 1 million 99.99999
Yeah.
methods.
Right.
That never reaches 100, or does it?
No, because you always have to be. If you have an evidence-based position, you must always therefore be open to evidence that can be counter to your position.
Yeah, that's what it necessarily means to have your beliefs based on evidence.
Right.
Future evidence can come along to change your mind.
Exactly.
And if you're 100, that means necessarily you don't think that could happen?
Yeah. Yes. Or we could define it that way. Yeah.
I think that's a fair way to define that.
Yeah.
So if you formulate your beliefs on the basis of evidence, that must mean, by definition, that some piece of evidence could come in to make you question the belief you already have, then you'd have to revise it.
Correct.
Now, if you're unwilling to revise your beliefs on the basis of evidence, then you don't formulate your beliefs on the basis of evidence.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if it's like a single method, or even like virtually, super reliable empirical methods, it's never 100. So that's the deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's in the question of like, what's really justifying 100? Well, I don't want to be absolute about anything, but if he does have a method, here's the thing. If he can propose a supernatural method, or something that we just never heard of, that is in fact 100% reliable, I would want to know about it. And that's why I'm asking now. But if he's presenting empirical evidence as a way to get to 100% evidence, there's the issue.
I mean, hypothetically, if God did exist and we said, I want to test if God exists, God do exist, and he pops into being right here.
Okay.
And if anybody wanted to do that, that would always happen. Even that wouldn't get 100%.
No.
Because
how do you know that's God?
That could not happen when people do it.
Sure. That could just be an alien that's like, hey, I got your message.
So it's like every person except for one person doing it. And that would make it no longer 100%. But even if it is before that point where it's always 100%, we should always be open to the idea that it could not happen next time.
Yeah, I'm open to the idea that you are aware of like advanced technology looks to us like magic to an extent.
Yeah.
So even something like that happening, if it wasn't a hallucination, who's to say that is in fact God? Like the causation is not demonstrating a correlation to God.
So this gets back to you need potential disconfirmation criteria for your beliefs.
Right.
Or else that's a problem.
Or present a method that is actually pretty good and not just additional anecdotes and experiences and upbringing and stuff. Okay.
If I don't have a 100% reliable method, shouldn't that be, I'll look for one. Like these that you have right now don't seem to be 100%.
At this point, I'm
No,
sorry.
but if you're a believer,
I'm pleading so that we can end the conversation.
Okay.
I'm being like, can we please just walk away on the idea that you'll just think about this?
This is halfway, pretty much. Jeez. Oh no.
Scriptures and what Jesus said about the divine awakening, that the Spirit speaks and reveal Himself to you, and that's your salvation. That's what you hold on to 100%, and that's what I believe. Just like, let's say,
But we know we live in a world where people can have that and not be true.
Right. Or people, they can say the same thing. I mean, that's their definition of it.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. So he knows we're going on the loop. I wonder how many times he'll take us on the loop.
To everybody else, it could be subjective. But
I don't think he thinks 100% is related to testability and getting the same result consistently.
It's his personal certainty that he holds as a virtue. Like, I'm demonstrating unwavering belief in my God. That is both what I'm trained to do and have been demonstrated to assuade all of my doubts about death. I really don't care about the methodology I'm using. I get more value out of being 100% than being reasonable.
Let's say God is the only one God, was He is, and He tells you basically how you can have everlasting life with Him. Well, and everybody else is wrong, but they still have their personal views. Someone's going to be right and someone's going to be wrong.
Maybe no one's right.
Huh?
Maybe no one's right. Maybe God is just
or
so
just
complex
one God. Oh yeah, just one God.
that no one's got it figured out.
Yeah.
And people are just 100% confident. When someone says they're 100% confident, it sounds like there's no room for me to grow spiritually. There's nothing else.
I know this angle.
I know everything I'm not.
What's that about?
This angle is, okay, so this is a I'm pretending this is a completely different conversation at this point. Like, right? It's like another restart. But the angle is, I'm just trying to shake them off 100%. I don't care if it's up, I don't care if it's down. And so right now, I'm doing a shake up, where it's basically like, hey, you're like a 20-year-old college student. You're saying you're 100% confident in God. What if, when you're 50, your relationship with Jesus just goes up exponentially, and you look back at yourself at 20, you're like, I had no idea where I was coming from, but like, I'm glad I stayed on this track, but there was no way I was 100% then. I'm now 100% now. Like, could you see yourself growing in this faith? And if they say yes, I can definitely see myself completely understanding God more, and probably I'm coming at it from a point of ignorance at this point, and there's probably still room for me to grow, and there's probably a lot of stuff I'm not really sure about. Then I can be like, can we go back to your 100%? Because when I see this, it seems like you have no room to grow. It's like, oh, well, then if I do have room to grow, maybe I'm about at like 75%. Maybe I really don't know everything about this Bible. Maybe there's still stuff that I can talk about. It's like, okay, cool, 70. At least you're off 100%, because now you can keep asking questions and keep learning. It's like, oh, that's good. And then we can either wrap up there, or depending on where it comes in the conversation, go back into what other stuff would it take for you to get even lower or even higher at this point. Like at this point, now that you know that you're at less than 100%.
Yeah. What am I thinking of? The claim is, does a God exist? And existence is a low bar. Like, you just need one example of a thing being there, and then you can continue to learn about that thing and get deeper in your knowledge of that thing, but you're always still going to be very confident it exists, I assume. I don't know. That might muddy it. I'm not sure.
I hear that. There is a distinction there between just God exists versus my relationship with that God. Though, if I had said, as a counter to that, like, I'm confident my God exists, but I really don't know what I'm talking about when I say God, right? And as I grow up older, I realized my impression of what that God was completely different. It's like, I know Kevin. It's like, do you know Kevin? I'm 100% confident I know Kevin. And then I say, 10 years later, you room with Kevin, you go to his wedding, you help deliver his baby, and he's like, oh, his name wasn't even Kevin at all. It was like Francis, and he's like a transgender, athlete from Brazil. And you're like, I had no idea who Kevin was, and he's a squirrel. You're like, I had no idea who Kevin was when I was like way back when. This is like, I had no idea, but I was an impressive guy. Like, it was something like that. That's what I mean by it. So I can probably define that a little better.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Ask some questions.
Now we're just trying to get through this.
We're just trying to get through this.
Does that sound like where you're at right now?
Reach interesting territory where I can try out some new stuff.
If something's 100% real and true, and
no doubt, stop asking questions closed-minded.
No, not closed-minded.
How are you not?
It give you room for growth.
How is there room for growth when you're at 100%?
Because your experience on life
is there.
I want to get
your
through
life
this.
is not 100%. Like, everything doesn't go. That's when faith come in. You have to have faith that,
oh my gosh,
things will work out in your favor, even though life is crappy. Like what happened with me in my arm, I had to have faith that I will make it past this, and it'll be something in the past, and I can move on in my life.
Do you value faith? Is faith important to you?
Yes.
Without faith, would you reduce your 100% confidence? If you didn't have faith, would you be as confident as you are today?
Well, if I didn't have faith, I wouldn't be 100% believer.
Finally, something.
What do you mean by faith?
Faith is basically believing and having hope in something that's not present.
Have you ever gotten the same definition for faith in as many years as you've done SC?
Like an exact, I'm sure I have, but people just give like the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things.
I'll get misquotes from that. I'll say the quote from the Bible that's from. It's like, no, that's Joshua 4:68. I'm like, there's not even 68 chapters in Joshua, but right, that's fine. You roll with that.
Yeah, it's very rarely exactly the same.
And we've been doing this for years.
It's believing and hoping in something that's not present.
Yeah. So, let's say, but when you have that confirmation for God, He tells you something's going to happen in your life, and it's not there. But He promised you that, and you walk through life and you have your experience and still not
I should be looking at him at this point.
You have to have faith that will happen, that he will fulfill his promise.
Is it possible to have faith in something that is not true? Can I believe and have hope in something that's not the case?
That's probably a better way to phrase it.
You could believe a door is your God. It's a non-living
but I have
thing.
$1 billion in my bank account?
Right, but
I could have faith in that?
Yeah, if you want to. You can have 100% faith that a wooden door is your God.
Could I have faith in something that's just false?
But every time you try to open the door, you have faith that door is going to open.
Reasonable expectation, but I don't want to argue that here.
Okay, let's say I did.
I want to just get through it.
Does
So I'll
that
concede
change whether or not that door will open?
What happens? A wall behind it. You can't open it.
Yeah.
But you have faith that when you unlock the door, that
so I could have faith
open.
and be wrong.
I'm very confused.
Whenever I do this with a pastor, and there's multiple videos on my channel, I will get to a definition of faith, and they'll be like, and I'll tell them I'm an atheist ahead of time, and they'll say, well, even for an atheist, it takes more faith to be an atheist than to believe in a God. I'm like, I'm fine with that. Like, I'll concede it. And a lot of times they're not expecting that. But the idea is, all right, I have faith. All right, I have eyebrows. Are either of those like a good way to reach a conclusion? And if we define it as just believing something with no evidence whatsoever, and I got that. And they'll be like, but you have faith. It's like, I know I do. But like, that's fine. But is exercising it a reliable way to come to a conclusion? But you got faith though. It's like, yeah. And then at that point they're like, okay, he's not balking at the faith question. Is it reliable? No, it's not. You need faith plus something else. And then that's really interesting. Maybe you get like, so faith isn't enough. You need faith and what else?
Yeah. There's a confusion of like having knowledge versus having certainty, and knowledge does not require certainty. So I think if people think, if anything you do, you assume you know that it will happen, and maybe they think that you assume you know it will happen with 100% certainty, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's not necessarily the case. You could have knowledge without certainty. You could just have, an expectation of the probability, and you want to.
Could you demonstrate an example of knowledge without certainty?
If I drop something, it'll fall.
Couldn't I have certainty that it would fall?
Sure.
Okay, so I want an example of knowledge without certainty.
Anything empirical that we have is not certain to happen, like continue to happen.
Oh, you mean absolute certainty?
Absolute certainty.
I got you.
Yeah, like 100%.
I got you.
Yeah,
I got you. Okay, cool. All right, so we got to the faith bomb. I'm restarting the conversation again. I'm trying what did I try in this case? Oh, I'm trying the define faith. Wait, do you value faith? Define faith, and then asking, after I get the definition, is that a reliable way to come to a conclusion? I'm seeing some balking, and he's saying, well, you got faith, and I can see that I have faith, and then we just see where that takes us.
Yes.
Why, if I can have faith and be wrong in certain things, and faith in things that aren't true at all, how is that a method to get you to 100% certainty on something?
Because, so what you're saying is, can you repeat the question?
It seems like faith is not 100% reliable.
And I'm fine with that. I can really pause here if I had more patience, because I think he's trying to think about that. And if he asks, can I repeat the question? Take a good 5 seconds and then set it out. Because I think he's going to the point where it's like when there's space, when I'm not talking, I should fill it up with word mouth noise. Yeah?
Faith in things that aren't true or things that are just flat out wrong. Right. So how is faith justifying 100% confidence?
Faith doesn't dictate 100%. It helps.
But you said without faith you would be less than 100%.
Eliminate the word but from your spoken vocabulary. Switch to and. The word but is likely to evoke a defensive posture, especially when you and your partner are at odds.
Right?
Well, if I didn't have faith, what I meant was, if I didn't believe and God was 100% real, I wouldn't have faith in it.
So why does having faith change anything?
Right.
Go for it.
I think he's equating faith with just it's equivalent to the belief. And
they're one and the same thing.
It's like equates the same. It's not like a method. It's just another way of saying I believe it.
I asked for the definition.
I know, but he did say he believes. It's a belief.
It's a belief or hope in something that's not present.
A belief in something. So it's just the belief? I don't know.
Yeah, like,
If I didn't have the belief, I wouldn't believe it.
how would you phrase that? So, like, is your faith the same thing as, is faith the same thing as your faith?
Is faith the same thing as the belief that it's true, or a way to know that it's true?
Yeah.
Clarify. Yeah.
But you had to have faith to grow. You had to. Okay, so, all right.
I really care about what's getting you to 100%. Is there anything that's getting you that certain? Like, do you have an example?
Pretty good. You're pretty good at. Yeah, you're pretty
I'm
good.
pretty bad right now, but hey, I'm holding up. I'm doing pretty good. I'm holding up.
When you say having 100% is no growth,
Yeah, can I-
I say
I'm the last archer
Go for it.
on that.
what
that wall.
you're saying is, since I have.
No, you're good. You're good.
All right. So you said because I have 100%.
Yeah, at that point you were just sitting down.
100%.
What?
You are 100% confident.
Sure that
I'm hoping
confident
you
that
have
God.
100%.
Did I distract you?
No, I think you gave me the. I had asked. I saw you sitting down, and I was like, "Are you good?" And you said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I think that was it.
Okay.
Reliable way to get to that
'Cause we were going
100%
long.
confidence. For example, if I flip the coin, touched it, it's on the back of my
I love
hand.
the coin
do you know if
flip.
it's heads or tails? Because I don't.
Even
You
that
know?
I messed up.
Do you know if
It's
this coin?
50-50.
It's 50-50. I don't know if it's heads or tails. We can flip 1,000 other coins and it says 50-50. That's still inconclusive. Now I can say, man, my upbringing told me that this coin flip would be heads, but that doesn't mean that it's really heads. I could say, man, I got faith that this coin will be
Well,
heads.
You can add up all these methods,
doesn't change.
and it does not
It doesn't
change
seem like it
the
could change.
probability or
It's
the
still
certainty that it
50-50,
would
right?
be correct. Like these methods are hardly applicable towards me knowing the identity of the coin flip. They're unapplicable.
Yeah. Is the coin flip in the same category of claims as a God existing?
It is It is. I understand. Okay, so a lot of people don't like the idea of like analogies, but the caliber of what is being used to figure out something is the same between the two. And if I care about true things, wouldn't I want to have the highest standard, or do I want to operate on a double standard? Or I say, for God claims, I'm willing to believe that God is true based on these things that I won't accept for even a coin flip. Does that make sense? Why?
I've seen you have your confidence be halfway for God.
Well, that you can be 100%. I'm trying to get this thing. I'm right here personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would
I'm not
say-
here.
Right.
Like I'm not like off the chart. No, I'm not off the chart. Yes.
I understand.
I'm like right here. I think 50-50.
Like, it's equivalent to a coin flip. It's either true or not true.
No. The idea. So when I'm defining my coin, so I'm not saying there's 50%. Okay. If I rolled a dice, and it was like a 6-sided dice, I can't do those percentages in my head right now. But like, it's a question of I don't know the result. Isn't when I don't know the result the better answer just to say I don't know? It's not me saying the existence of a God is 50-50. Because I could say I have a sock drawer full of blue socks and red socks. If I pull out a sock, what's the probability of it being blue? It's like, well, I don't know because I don't know how many blue or reds. That's the basis of the coin flip. But it's easier for me to flip a coin than talk about my sock drawer. And it's not a reflection of the percentage of a God existing. It's just the idea of if I don't know the result, shouldn't that be the right answer until I do? That's the whole basis of the coin flip. It's not a percentage of the God existing.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I could be right, but it's not a good method for me to get there. So like if I said I have faith 100% that it's heads, and I show that it's heads, faith wasn't the method that got me to 100%. It's seeing it that should be the most reliable way to get it. Because like,
Empirical testing.
Yeah.
heads, it's heads. I see it. It's both heads. It seems like there are better ways to justify 100% certainty than any of these methods that you brought up. And I'm not saying that this isn't true. I'm just saying there seems to be a lacking methodology that you're using to get to 100% confidence. And if you don't know it, maybe that's something we should think about.
Can we please go?
I'm not even saying that's wrong. I'm just saying, think about a way to justify 100% certainty.
Please.
And I'll be here every day for this convention.
Please go.
If you think of it, let me know.
But the thing about it is
take
using
the
methodology and science when it comes to something spiritual.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of people misinterpret the coin flip example as Tyrone saying that there's 50% chance for God existing. So you're not the only one to like bring that up. I've seen a couple. There are definitely people who get it and there are people who don't. So I can always try to improve the basis of it. The take-home message of the coin flip is if you don't know the result, isn't I don't know the best answer, rather than jumping to a methodology that may not necessarily be very reliable and saying, well, I just think it's heads because I was raised to be.
I don't know is a vague answer, and it's not almost certainly not true. That's different from I don't know.
In my opinion, I don't know is an intellectually honest position. It may not be the destination, but it is absolutely a valid answer. And it may not be the one that makes you feel good, but that's great because that means you're starting learning with the least amount of bias. So if anything, it's an indication that you have work to do, but it is a completely valid place to be at when you don't know something.
If 50% means I don't know, that could be the wrong place to be for the claim. Like, if someone said, I don't know if unicorns exist, I'm 50% about it. That's too high of confidence for unicorns, in my mind.
I hear what you're saying. And again, it's when I'm using the coin, it's easy to just say 50% chance of being heads or tails. If I pulled out a sock from a sock drawer that had blue and red socks, we don't know what the probability is at that point, so I could just say I don't know at that point. If it's something like, if I rolled a 3-sided die, it's 33% chance each time. The percentage is tied to the analogy, but the story of why I'm using that analogy is to show if you don't know something conclusively, an inconclusive answer of I don't know is the most honest answer that you can provide in that case. It's not a statement that you can take the 50% coin and apply it to a 50% God or a 50% unicorn. It's a statement of if you don't know something, that's okay. You can start learning from the best place of an acknowledgement that you don't have information and that you want to go about it in the most least biased way possible.
Okay, all right.
Does that make sense? Could I explain that better?
Could you go about for people who believe or don't know if unicorns exist? Maybe they started out saying, I think unicorns exist, and you try to use the coin for the example to try to get them to think, I don't know if unicorns exist, but ideally they should be very, almost certainly confident that they do not exist.
They should be certain that they don't, absolutely certain?
Almost certain.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. It's a weird thing. I mean, if we can define what a unicorn is it just a growth on top of a horse?
It's like a horse with a horn with magical powers.
Oh, a horse with magical powers? Okay, again, I don't know of any demonstration of magical powers. I don't have a reason to believe that. That's more of my argument would be, I don't have a good reason to believe that, which is, if you don't want to say I don't know, that is also a good thing that you can claim. Because, yes, I don't know if...
Because it's not in the category of possible things that could exist, because we haven't seen one yet.
Right, but I can demonstrably say that I don't have a good reason to believe that. As far as a knowledge claim of whether they exist or not, I find like those tend to be very much binary. And then the certainty that I can apply to that, as if I recognize I don't have a good reason to believe it, everything else falls apart as far as why do I even need to apply a certainty on the knowledge claim?
Yeah, just no reason to get you to 50 or get you to virtually 0.
There's no reason get me to 50% or knowledge. I can think about that. I don't know what you mean. Let me think about this real quick. There's no knowledge. What do you mean by no? What do you mean? So as far as a unicorn existing, wouldn't be absolutely certain on either way. I don't have any information to go about it either way. And if I find the scale as 0 being me 100% saying it doesn't exist, and 100 being 100% saying I am confirming that it does exist, I don't really have a basis on that either way. I wouldn't have, not to say that like I'm exactly at the 50, but like even on God, I could be, you know, higher on that percentage or lower on that percentage based on how I feel throughout the day. So you average that out, I still don't have an issue with that.
I think if the scale is like always trading off between doubt and certainty, like 99% confident is 1% confident it does not exist. 99% confident it does exist, 1% confident it does not. And you can get you all the way over, and it's like 50% confident it does or does not exist. It's hard to be exactly, because that just doesn't work if like our brains. It's either like 49, 51, or 1 and 99 is the most common place for virtually everything. Most of the time.
How about this? I can say with certainty that I don't have a good reason to believe that they don't exist, and I don't have a good basis to make an argument that magic and magical unicorns in some place that I'm not aware of also don't exist. That's where I'd be at. I'd be open to it if you can show me it, because that'd be awesome. But until then, it's not going to impact my lifestyle or anything, because I know I don't have a good reason to believe it. I don't know if they don't exist or not.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
If you think of it, let me know.
But the thing about it is using methodology and science when it comes to something spiritual.
Okay, so if we don't have a method to know something, why isn't I don't know the best answer?
That's the basis of it.
Okay,
when you told me I don't know, that was the right answer until we did know. We don't have to say faith and hope we're right. We don't have to believe and hope in something that we don't have present. We could just say we don't know, which is the correct answer until we do. What's wrong with saying you don't know when you don't know something?
But saying I don't know why I believe God is real.
That's fine.
How's that a right answer?
Because it's intellectually honest. It forces you from picking a wrong answer. And it's totally fine for you to say, I'm still growing spiritually, and I'm trying to figure this out. But right now, I don't know why I believe. I'm going to take some time to try to figure that out.
Well, if you come with something, method.
So at my job, we have a number of different instruments that we can use to build a narrative of what an unknown substance is. And we get a request for testing from different companies, and sometimes they're like really high executives from like different branches. And we got a sample of a black material, and they're like, we need to know what this black material is. And so we put it through an instrument that degrades the material. We put it through an instrument that melts the material, an instrument that tells you what atomic components are in it. And at the end of the day, we can say it is a carbonaceous, or it contains carbon compound that melts at this temperature and degrades at this temperature. And those are all the instruments that we were able to apply. And it's black. And
those are good tests.
Those are good tests. They were not happy with that, because they want to know, well, is it graphite, which is black, melts at this and this, or is it graphene, which has similar properties and is also carbon? Or is it, carbon black? Or is it coal? Or is it bituminous carbon? Like, we need to know which of these things are available. And we were very delicate with how we expressed in our report what was in our test. And we said, we don't have anything in our lab that can tell you if it's any of these things.
So they were asking for a more rigorous test to get a more accurate answer, but you didn't have the capability to do that.
Exactly. And so the correct answer at that point is, we don't know if it's any of these things.
So therefore you can't say which one it is.
All we can tell you is the data that we have. And as far as if it's any of these things, we don't know. We would need more rigorous testing. And they said, well, what's the value of this data if you can't tell if it's any of these things? And I immediately said, because you didn't get the wrong data. Because you got data that is at least supportive of it being carbon, having this degradation point and this melting point.
I'm sure you eliminated a bunch of things that it could be.
A bunch of stuff.
You became less wrong about it.
Exactly. So you have options that you can follow up with other labs that are in our company and say, hey, we figured out these things, we saved you some time. You have data that's reliable and good that came through, reasonable methodologies. But as far as the additional things that you need to know, we don't know that, and that's a good thing to recognize before we just make the claim through speculation that, give us two things, we're 50-50 on each of these. Like, no, we don't know. Like, that's fair in that context.
If you have no test to make a distinction, you can't go any further.
Yeah, it could be something completely different from the 5 things that they presented us. So the best thing that we can do is, at the limit of our ability, express what we are able to demonstrate, measure our confidence with that, and then beyond that, recognize when we don't know something.
You have data consistent with a few hypotheses without being able to falsify the hypotheses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Then
You can help other people who have the same.
no, I'm saying if you use that method or you find the method,
Yeah.
was not to say that everybody else can say, yeah, I use that method too. I use that method
Yeah,
too. I
that's
use
rough.
that method too.
It's rough, right? But
Then
let
we'll
me tell
be
you.
back in the same
But
square
I can tell
one.
you what happens if you really cared about your beliefs being true and you found a 100% reliable method. I absolutely want to know about it because I want to know things that are true too. And if you have a 100% reliable way to get to this God belief, I want to know about this God using your method that's 100% reliable, and we can work on that together. But if we find something that's lacking, the best thing that I can do is let you know, I don't think that's 100% reliable. Maybe 100% isn't the best place to be, or maybe you should find a better method than the ones that you have, because none of these are 100% reliable yet. But we can work on it together. I feel like a lot of people satisfy themselves with just saying, well, I was raised Christian, so that's why Christian God's true. I was raised Hindu, that's why Hindu God's true. There's so much, I feel like God, if that God's real, he deserves a higher standard of following.
I'm using Joker terminology.
Someone that's willing to do that work.
Well, let's say.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, it's like the Dark Knight.
He deserves a higher standard of criminal.
Yeah.
This town deserves a better class of criminal.
Wow.
God, if that God's real, he deserves a higher standard of following or person that
When he's burning the money,
someone that's willing to do that work,
Well, let's say
Yeah.
he already
Joker.
knows that everybody's not going to follow him.
then that's not your problem.
That's what I'm saying.
But you still believe 100%. That's
Yes.
the problem.
Yeah, that's
because
the
you don't
problem.
have you don't have 100% reliable way to reset.
Because
Do you know what?
Well, it
blind-
depends what God wants. It is the criteria for higher standard of believer someone who believes just because with faith, or someone who has like a highly rigorous model.
Yeah, it goes back to Pascal's wager, because if you believe in God just because you think that's the best way to save your own skin, one, is it worth worshiping a God that is willing to reward that just belief out of the sake of the fact that you only care about your own personal welfare and self-interest? Like, or do you think you're fooling God into rewarding you because you have such, a base belief? Or what about all the other gods that are like, you chose the wrong God, you should have worshipped me, I was right, because you hedged your bets on the wrong God, we can now punish you. Like,
Does God care about reasonable people or gullible people?
yeah, that's a good thing. So, like, you need a higher standard.
Then that's not your problem.
I would imagine if you spend time to worship a God for as much as time as you do, you would respect the fact that he has a high standard for the people who are following. If
You
not,
think so?
If not, that's fine. Good job. Good job. You made it in.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
But you still believe 100%. That's
Yes.
the problem. Because
How's
you
that
don't
the
have
problem?
you don't have a 100% reliable way to reach that
Because-
conclusion. Do you know what
okay.
blind confidence is?
But let's say you say 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
This gets a little
4
confusing.
minus 2 is 2. What if someone else say 100 minus 28? It all equals 2. It's different ways of the equation.
100 minus 28 equals 2? That guy's wrong.
Oh, no. I mean, minus 98 is 2. But everybody came to 2.
Yeah.
But it's different ways or different.
They're all using math. That's not very different. They're working with different constants, but that's fine. He's saying his math is different from his math is different. Like, the problem might have been different, but they're both all using math.
Yeah, I'm confused with his analogy.
It's weird.
So different, whatever.
So,
But
do you care if your belief is true?
I'm resetting again.
Yeah, I care if it's true.
If it turned out that the way that you were reaching that belief was completely unreliable,
How? Well, how can you prove it that's not reliable?
because none of these methods are as reliable as the confidence that you're putting into it.
But what happened is subjective to you, and to someone else they might agree.
We can agree people are raised differently to believe in different gods. We can agree people have different feelings that point to different gods.
Right.
We can agree that all these gods are real, right? Unless few.
Yeah,
the distinction between necessary and sufficient, like if X then Y necessarily, or if X some probability Y. He's saying 100, so that means necessary. That's the standard is necessary. If X then Y, and none of those are necessary syllogisms.
So obviously not 100% reliable.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, if I cared if my beliefs were true or not, I would want the most reliable way to reach them.
But
lacking that,
I feel like I'm missing something
It's easy to believe in things that aren't true. That's why. And it's easy to put a lot of faith in something.
Is it possible to care if your beliefs are true, but satisfy yourself with somewhat unreliable ways to get there? Do you necessarily have to have the highest standard of, this is the argument he's coming with, and I was thinking about it, do you necessarily have to have a high standard of methodologies if you care if your beliefs are true or not? Or are you willing to work with something that's functional?
Yeah, that's what we're assuming. And maybe people don't even know about that.
I'm asking you.
What were you asking again?
Do you necessarily have to have a high standard? Do you need to have the highest standard, or strive to have the highest standard of methodologies to support a belief that you do care if it's true or not? Or are you capable to compromise on the quality of the methodologies that you're using if it gets you the certainty that you want?
Yeah, this seems related to the truth versus comfort distinction. Yeah, I don't know. Like, ideally, comfort, for me, relates to predictions about reality that would make me comfortable, and that relates to models that need to be accurate and rigorous.
Like, what if someone was only, you know, the Lamborghini explanation? Say there was a guy who had a key fob, was in a parking lot that had a Lamborghini and had a t-shirt that said, I own a Lamborghini. And for him, that's like, you know what? That's good enough for me. I don't need to drive home in it. But I am comfortable in this body that I teleported in, that I own a Lamborghini. That's good enough for me. Like, it may not be 100%, but I am 100% confident I must own a Lamborghini, because why else would I have all this stuff? I got the key fob right here. I got a shirt. I'm good. Like, that's probably like a playful example, but I mean like in a more realistic sense. Like, do you really need to be using at what point can you coast on a certain level of methodologies that you have and just be like, you know what, this is good enough to justify a higher standard of confidence? Or do they always have to meet each other?
If you're rational, then they should, yeah.
Okay. Would you say that's always the case?
Maybe.
So your methodology must always equal the quality of the methodology you're using must always equal the confidence. Else you're being overconfident or underconfident.
Yeah, so prior probability plus evidence should equal your posterior probability, and you should adjust your confidence to the posterior.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how I think about it.
Okay, cool.
Not true. Or be mistaken, or slightly get it wrong. It's so easy to do that. I'm not even saying you're wrong. I'm just saying have a method that's as good as the confidence that you're putting in.
But why? But you can't use method in science and that when it comes to something like that.
There are Hindus that believe that based on these exact same reasonings in a completely different
Right, now I'm saying why we can't use like methods of science for what their beliefs.
Yeah, we can. And we can find out these people have work to do too. I think there are people who say that there are no God based on these exact same
reasons. I think
reasons.
that works better as a contrast.
A person can believe in no God because they believe it and hope that it's true.
But it's almost like an election. Like you can have
I don't
three
get
people
this
running
analogy.
for a race. They all have similar methodology, message, this and that.
Yeah.
But you're only gonna have one winner.
You're only gonna have one winner. Maybe no winner if they all die, right?
But then,
I don't get the
but
yeah,
they all go down the same path. They all have similar methods.
Right.
They all go about the same way, but they're only gonna have one winner.
Not necessarily.
But what's the methodology in that to guarantee a win?
A win?
Yeah, that they will win the election.
Whoever wins the most votes?
Well, what's the methodology that they have to go through to guarantee that they're going to be successful and win it?
Counting the votes that they get?
No. Their path of running their election, a guarantee win. I'm not talking about the counts, but to guarantee that they will win the election.
I don't understand what you're referring to.
Me too.
That's fair.
So, you're saying that, for my belief, that God's 100% right?
Yeah, I'm saying, like, there's a guy who says he's 100% confident this coin's heads. And I'm asking him why, and he's saying upbringing, feelings, a personal experience he had 4 years ago, breathing, the fact that he's breathing, and that he has faith. And all those combined are making him 100% confident that this is heads. And I'm saying, you might be right.
You might be right.
I'm saying you might be right, but that methodology you're using is not 100% reliable. Wouldn't you care to use a 100% reliable method to know what the result was? Maybe there's a better method out there for you to use than the ones you're using right now. That's all I'm saying.
I think I typed in the chat, you can't be right by accident. Or you can't, if you're right by accident, that doesn't count as knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't want to be right by accident.
Right.
We want to have reliable methods to get the answer consistently.
Yeah, I don't care about that conclusion. I care about the method that you're using to reach that conclusion. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, I can even concede the point that you could be right, but I don't like the methods that you're using to justify this high level of confidence you have. Do you have anything that justifies one and the other?
Yeah, the floor's about to open. We gotta go.
Why not use those methods? If you
How much more time do we got?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
1 more time.
If there's a certain method to guarantee a success or 100% something, or guarantee win for a candidate, if all three candidates go down the same path of trying to guarantee that win, you're only going to have one winner.
Okay.
But I'm asking,
I don't know.
Use that in that same context, and you say, I don't understand what you're saying.
So if you're saying, like, if Shiva, Jehovah, and the Pasta God were all running for
Again, I really just want to get out of here.
I exist, there's only going to potentially one of those will be winners. Maybe none of them will
I should
be
clarify
winners.
what I mean by that. It's not so much that I want to get out. It's more, which is true, I do. I'll be honest with that. But it's more of like, I know this conversation is not from start to finish what I know I'm capable of doing. I've used it as more of like experiments to just like
mini experiments of methods.
Mini experiments, trying things on the wall, and I'm like, okay, I've caused a dumpster fire enough. I've thrown enough fuel on it. Can we just like wrap up? I'm fine if you keep believing what you're believing. I'm fine if you keep believing what you're believing. Hopefully, there could just be some takeaways, but let's talk again later, and maybe when we have more energy, and the guy is not getting up. So I'm like, all right, if you're still here, I'm still here. Reed, I'm sorry about this. And you're like, thumbs up. Let's just keep going. Yeah, that was basically what's going on.
Asking what's the methodology we should use to figure out
No, not like that.
Because that's where I'm confused.
No.
You see where I'm at?
No, like, okay, so Bernie Sanders, Trump, and a Green Party person. They want to win presidency.
Sure.
And there's certain methods that they can use to guarantee more votes to have the best result to be president. If they all use the same methods to become president, you're only going to have one person to win.
Sure, as it has been the case. Yeah.
Right.
False analogy?
That's a fairly mundane thing.
Yeah, but it depends on the people.
Yeah, but I wonder about a supernatural being that created the universe compared to 3 people running for president.
No, I'm saying when it comes to me being, my views, a Hindu, a Satanist, the methodology to find that truth, then what's the point?
Right? That's what I'm asking you. And why are you putting 100% certainty?
I'm saying then what's the point? Because he said if I find a better methodology to have that 100% with God, let you know so everybody else can do it to find God. But if they...
I get you now.
Yeah.
I get you. You're saying, I'm already at 100%, why would I
That's
want
what we would get. If someone had a reliable method, then anybody could know.
Exactly.
That's the utility of that.
Yeah, that's a great thing about 100%.
Better method.
No, I'm saying if I teach you the method to get 100% with God,
I don't know the method to get 100%.
No, I'm saying if I tell you the method.
Yeah.
If there is,
sometimes I worry if I'm leading people into a religious awakening just from the nature of the conversation, because sometimes it's like Why do you believe in God? I know I believe in God. Why do you believe? Well, maybe I don't know, but you're trying to set me up for why I should know, or like hand out a pamphlet for which cult I should join next. And I'm like, I'm genuinely just
Yeah, it's like we're trying to tear him down to give him something else, but no,
we're just shaking to see how, it's a weird thing. We're just poking this poke for the sake of poking. Yeah.
The method. No, I'm saying.
I would want to.
This is why people confuse street epistemology as like having the goal of trying to create atheists, but that's just a byproduct of being reasonable for this claim.
Yeah.
At least that's what Boghossian says.
An indispensable goal is to be free from poor thinking, bad reasoning, faulty epistemologies, and free from the attitudes that lead to religion. What's not important is to be an atheist. It is important to be a person who trusts reason, who formulates their beliefs on the basis of reliable evidence, and who's genuinely willing to reconsider. Atheism is a natural consequence of possessing these skills and attitudes. Yet one could be an atheist and not possess these skills and dispositions. That is, one could be a doxastically closed atheist. This should not be an intellectual or attitudinal aspiration.
It tends to be a common byproduct, but also I go into it completely willing to, and I hope this does make sense. Like, if I got novel excuses for a God that I just never gave a lot of credit to, I would even be more willing to believe in that God by the end of the conversation myself. And I think
we need to be open to revising our position. Like, someone could have a reliable way, but we need to be open to that.
Yeah. And I think that genuineness makes this a much more honest conversation compared to like a proselytizing session.
Yeah, not reliable to our standards, but just maybe we're wrong about our standards. We could also talk about that.
Exactly.
We could be wrong about that.
Like, even this guy saying, hey, my methodology doesn't need to match my confidence, I'll be like, I got to think about that. I want to talk to you about that. Yeah. So we're always thinking about stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then it'll be different from me telling, if it's the same thing, if I tell a Hindu guy the method is going to be 100% even more for his God, same thing for a Satanist.
It's like 4 billion people are like,
Can
what?
I tell you something? I think
Sorry.
if you had 100% method,
Do it.
He said Hindu guy, and I was like, 4 billion people just turned their heads and said, what?
You said that.
No, I didn't.
I'd still want to hear it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't shoot yourself in the foot. And I care about my beliefs being true more than my personal truths being true. So again, it goes back to like the water in my gas tank. If you had a thing, if you say like, Tyrone, I have 100% way to make your car run, it's not just true for me, but it's true for you and anybody else who has this model of car, I would want to know about that more than me putting water in my gas tank. I think if you had this method, sure pat, 100%, it wouldn't matter if I was Hindu, an atheist, or Muslim or whatever, Satanist, pasta guy, whatever, 100% would convince me that you have a reliable way to reach a conclusion. And the best way for me to do that is to just have these conversations with people who think they do and see if it adds up. And if not, recognize that maybe there's work to be done. And that's all I'm putting out. Do you have a 100% reliable way to get to a God conclusion?
That's it.
It boils down to the same thing.
Yeah.
It was a rhetorical question. But
Right.
To get to different gods.
But you're using methodology or science when it comes to God, and God is not that.
So then why are you 100% confident?
Rational methods don't require empiricism.
Sure.
You can have thought experiments.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do math claims and just claim something's true, make it well defined, and then just stay consistent with as you use it.
Yeah.
So not necessarily science, if that means empiricism.
I think he's just trying to.
He's just dodging.
He's just trying to be dismissive.
Like I already told you, my divine awakening.
And we're back up.
Sounds like,
And I'm not going to let him circle.
yeah, it sounds like you should probably consider this. I don't want to go anymore because it's not worth going.
I'm
Yeah,
literally
that's
telling him I
what
don't
I'm
want to
saying.
talk anymore.
But this has not convinced me. So work on it.
It's not for me to convince you or not convince you or not.
It's true to you.
Mm-hmm.
But even if it's true to you, it may not necessarily be true to everybody.
All right.
And even if it's true for me that water goes in my gas tank, I may not get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I would want someone to
But you
stop.
yeah.
I would want someone to stop and be like, "Are you sure you should put that in your gas
Yeah,
tank?"
but you're comparing God to a car.
Yeah.
I am.
Okay. Delano, I'm just gonna
Nice
stop
to meet
here.
you. That's what I'm saying.
Consider what I
Yeah,
said.
we could full circle, but
I would like to get to the end of the path.
Mhm.
I don't want to keep circling with you. I want to see what's at the bottom that's justifying 100%.
well, everybody has their own. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Everybody
I
has
want to
their
know
own
what's yours.
path.
I want to know what's yours.
My path with me and God has nothing to do with anybody else's path. You have to go down your own self.
Everyone can make up hypotheses. It's about testing hypotheses in reality.
Yeah. I agree.
I want to know what's
This is not as bad as I thought it was for how I felt at the time.
Come back and talk to me if you have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? I just want to know what's supporting this.
Mm-hmm.
Cool? Think about it. I appreciate the stop.
All right, no problem.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. Is there more? Oh, you cut off the point where I'm like,
That's all.
read.
What?
No, I did another one after this. I did Nathan after this. The
Yeah.
Star Spangled Suit.
Well, this is just a highlight clip. There's more on the podcast.
Fantastic. Okay, so yeah, a lot of good takeaways. I really appreciate this critical feedback. It's also open to the internet. Go on ahead and feel free to let me know more things. Enough Johns. It's day 2 of Politicon. Let's actually make
CPAC.
happen. So I'm sorry, I don't know where I'm at sometimes. CPAC 2020. Let's make something happen. Yeah.
Let's do it. But